Now, earlier today, I caught up with Senate Finance Chairman John DeFrancisco to get his take on how the budget talks are shaping up and whether Cuomo's brief absence might impact them. Senator DeFrancisco, thanks very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
So you were on the floor today while you had this sort of brief debate about the budget, and you called it a starting point. What did you mean by that?
Well, you know, there's a budget bill from the governor, there's a budget bill from the Senate, and soon there'll be a budget bill from the Assembly, and now we're going into joint conference committees in public, and there's going to be a debate upon the various views of life according to the budgets of each of those individuals and the houses that had to pass a budget. So it's a starting point. There'll be some compromise somewhere in between. There might be things that pop up that aren't even in the budget bill. Those have happened before. So at least it starts the process, the legislative process, and we can start debating this in public.
You also said during your remarks that there was probably not anyone in the room who actually loved this document. It is, of course, a difficult year. Is there something in particular that you are finding particularly painful? Well,
there's a lot of things that are painful. You know, we tried to restore some school aid to the rural upstate districts. Still, there's huge cuts. You know, the Senate budget got rid of that non-negotiated salary increase for home health care workers. You know, that still is up in the air. It isn't over yet. We don't know whether that's ultimately going to be part of the budget or not. The medical malpractice thing bothers me because I think there's better alternatives, and it's a short-sighted way to do it. But I just hope that there's real negotiations and reason prevails and some of those areas are resolved.
Are you not concerned, and I did ask this question of Senator Skelos, but are you not concerned that 1199, the Home Health Care Workers Union, which signed off on the MRT in part because they got that living wage increase, will now say, well, if you don't give it to us, then we'll back right out of this, and that could blow up the whole agreement?
I think you have said on many, many occasions, as of other members of the press and the media, that, you know, this horse trading part of government is what's nauseating. I mean, it's not right. To me, it's a much more plausible argument, no matter who signs off or signs on and who's at the table and has the bargaining power, as 1199 did at the MRT table and others didn't. The fact is, you got to be fair. You can't possibly say you're going to give a non-negotiated increase and put another cost on home health care providers, and then those people that are servicing developmentally disabled are not going to get their COLA this year because the budget's bad, or that school teachers are going to be laid off, or that state workers are going to be laid off. It's not fair, yeah, and I think that's the way we should do it.
Pure fairness, though, is really impossible, right? Isn't it? You're never going to have everybody equally taking a cut.
Well, pure fairness isn't, but for someone who was fortunate enough to be at a negotiating table, and the home health care providers did not have equal access to that, or in the case of medical malpractice, when the whole the legal community, including the State Bar Association and people who deal with victims' rights in litigation, they weren't at the table.
But you guys kept that piece, nevertheless, even though the Assembly Democrats took it out.
That's exactly what I said. I'm not happy with every part of the proposal. It was kept in there, and there are other proportions that I don't like, but I'm just telling you that we're never going to satisfy everyone, and I just hope in the negotiation process cooler heads prevail and we get a budget. But my point with respect to 1199 is one group that happens to be more powerful than the other has to play by the same rules. And all I'm suggesting is we want to change the way Albany does business, and that's the old way, and I don't think it's the right way.
Well, Governor Cuomo actually cast this as a new way. In other words, I'm going to bring all of these interests to the table and let them hash out a deal so I can take them out of the equation when it comes to a budget war. Do you not agree with that?
No, because all the parties were not at the table. As I mentioned moments ago, all the parties weren't at the table, and those with the political clout happen to be at the table. And, you know, I'm not saying we should deny workers a fair wage. The fact of the matter is they're supposed to negotiate. The people in Wisconsin are railing over the fact that collective bargaining is being thrown out the door. Well, what happened at the MRT table? What bargaining power did the home health care providers that are getting cut 2% more, what bargaining power did they have in that negotiation?
Just to play devil's advocate on that, the Senate GOP also then subsequently passed a last in first out bill that the UFT, the teachers union, says does away with their collective bargaining rights.
Well, that doesn't do away with collective bargaining. That's a fallback position in case they don't negotiate a settlement, and that has been stated many, many times by Mayor Bloomberg. But it is relevant and it is important. In fairness, if a city mayor has to cut teachers, and there are teachers that are better teachers than those that just happen to have seniority, if you have safeguards for those teachers, shouldn't the teachers who are guardians of our children, our most precious asset, shouldn't they have to be the best that we could keep rather than the last one, last one in has to be the first one out?
So you agree in theory then with the governor's idea that you have to create a statewide teacher evaluation system to inform the firing process?
To make it fair. I mean, if we have a business that hires people to make widgets, are we going to hire the person who makes widgets that can't make a widget well? Well, we happen to have teachers that are teaching students, and the education process is failing us. Shouldn't we make sure we have the best teachers, and that should be the process that when we have to fire, we should have quality rather than seniority?
Education has really been sort of the flashpoint in this budget. Most of all, both the Assembly and the Senate have put back money, some of the money, not nearly all of the $1.5 billion that the governor seeks to cut in his budget. Already, though, you're seeing that there is considerable daylight between the two sides. Assembly Speaker Sheldon Silver today said of the Senate GOP's budget that he thinks that he doesn't know where the money's coming from. He said imaginatively the Senate majority restored some of this money. So because you won't do the millionaire's tax, which is what the Democrats are going to do on the other side of the Capitol. So explain again, if you would, where that money's coming from.
Well, there was a pot of money, two pots of money, $250 million apiece for the competitive grants for education. We took $300 million of that, $500 million, and used it to restore $280 million in education cuts. There's been some talk, well, that's not real money. Lieutenant Governor Duffy appeared before the joint Senate Finance and Ways and Means Committee hearings. That question was asked of him specifically. He says there's money behind it. Since that time, there's been discussions between our finance staff and budget. They say there's at least $300 million behind it. So we took their word for it and we used that money. So there's money behind it. And we'd love to be able to restore more, but there just isn't the ability to do that.
And the millionaire's tax, really, despite the fact that your colleague John Bonasek has said that he's going to put in a bill that I don't believe it actually has been introduced at this point yet. Do you have any idea why it was that he decided to do that? And no one from the conference is going to get behind him on it?
I don't know why he did it, but that's up to John. John's done a lot of things going off the reservation many times, and he's a wonderful person. He's probably one of my best friends here in the Senate. He has reasons for doing things, and he's advocating for various things, and if it happens, all the more power to him. But the rest of the Senate, we've made a pledge: no more taxes, no new taxes, and we're not going to break it.
Okay, but if it happens, I mean, that seems to open the door to it. The only way it would happen is if you guys agreed that it would happen. The other side already wants it, and the governor says he doesn't. I mean, obviously there's a mechanical failure in that there needs to be three people to tango in Albany.
Well, that's what the negotiations are about, and I'm sure there's other things that the Assembly want other than the millionaire's tax, and no question. Sheldon Silver has negotiated many things that people didn't think he could negotiate. So I'm sure there's other priorities that he has that may be satisfying him as opposed to raising taxes, which we just don't want to do, nor does the governor want to do.
Okay, so if you were a betting man, would you say that you would bet that the millionaire's tax is actually really dead?
I would bet that it's not going to be part of the final budget, but we're going to conference committees. We're going to have open discussions. If people change their minds, I don't think I will. I know I won't, but I don't know. There's others that might agree with Senator Bonasek or the Assembly, and it might tip the scales in something else happening.
You once, actually on the show with me, suggested that if it came to it, and this is a while ago now, that there would be possible for the Senate and the Assembly to team up in a two-way agreement. You no longer think that that's possible?
No, that's always possible. I don't, some of the budgets that turned up at the end of the process are so different than when they started, and I've been here 19 years. the dynamics is so, it depends on the players. And you've got a new player at the table now with Governor Cuomo. He may just say, forget it. If you don't do my way, I'm just going to, I'm not going to sign a budget. You're going to have to try to override it. And if you can't override it, then I'll just do extenders. So I really think that I can't say that there won't be a two-way. I think there's more likely to be a three-way, because I believe, despite the differences, everyone wants to get this budget done on time.
Well, you don't think that anybody wants to. It's really a game of political chicken. I mean, when it comes down to this, I mean, the idea that you would actually shut down the government is not something that anybody really wants to swallow.
That's correct.
So are you concerned about this idea of the shoving everything into the extender, sort of holding that over your head as a threat? I'm
concerned about that, but there's another possibility. It may be that there may be the governor may see that we're close to a budget. Maybe there's 2 or 3 sticking points. He may just have an extender if we get to that point, which I don't believe we will, and then that extender could incorporate some of the changes that have been agreed to, or some of the one, and finally the balance of it is put in there because he says we can't agree. So there's so many variations, but I believe, I really do, I don't think anybody, this problem isn't going to get better on April 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. It's probably going to go worse. So I think it's in everyone's best interest to work together, try to bridge the differences, and get a budget on April 1.
The governor is actually not here today. He is up in Essex County. He took a personal day. He's with his family. And while you are passing one House budget bills, obviously, he's not involved in that particular process. He didn't need to be down here. There's no negotiations. Three-way negotiations have not yet started. But nevertheless, he's coming back for a staff meeting. Do you believe that that's appropriate in the middle of the budget season, that he might do that?
He can judge his calendar the way he thinks he should judge his calendar. I don't think anyone has ever suggested that he's not a worker, he's not going to work hard. The fact that he happens to be not here one particular day is immaterial. He has put in the time, he will put in the time for whatever has to be done to get this deal done.
Well, I want to thank you very much, Senator John DeFrancisco. It could be a long one for you, so if that General Conference Committee gets together. So I want to thank you very much.
Thank you.